Good morning. Today is Tuesday, the 2nd of April, in the year 2019, and it is a pleasant good morning and a warm welcome to your program, Good Morning, Sierra Leone, of a program that always starts your day. I am Sheku Smile.
And I am Anne-Marie Goodbye.
Yes, our quote of the day comes from a Russian philosopher, Ayn Rand, and it says, "The ladder of success is best climbed by stepping on the wings if opportunity arises." That is your quote of the day. And my
Yeah, coming up in this morning's edition of the program, Good Morning, Sierra Leone Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallo launches the one-month closed fishing season in the country. The 5th African Sanitation Conference concludes in Cape Town, South Africa. Sierra Leoneans from Samu chiefdoms who fled to Guinea for fear of harassment by the police returns home. And Sierra Leone joins other countries to observe World Autism Awareness Day. All these stories plus more, including your text messages, which you can send to the number 030 126 320 030 126 320, or you can find us on Facebook at SLBC Live Channel 31 and other social media platforms.
yes, indeed, on Maggie. Yesterday, today is the day after April Fool. Yesterday, it was that big April Fool. About the third man in charge, had resigned. And later we came to realize that it was April Fool. So today is the day just after April Fool, because today is April 2nd. But really, in fact, there was a release to the effect from the lesser place from the parliament, but it was really, it was not true. Abbas Bundu is still the Speaker of the House, and in fact he's out of the country. And there is no vacancy. So it was big April Fool yesterday. But it is imperative that we keep ourselves healthy,
Yes.
which is why in this edition of the program, Good Morning, Sierra Leone, we bring you the health tips.
It's a developmental spectrum disorder. Autism is made up of a constellation of symptoms, including difficulty with communication, social interaction, and compulsive behaviors.
They also have what we call stereotypic behaviors. One of them might be spinning in place or hand flapping.
Child psychiatrist Dr. Denise Duchik says symptoms can start in early childhood, as young as 2 years old.
Parents and pediatricians will recognize it early on, even before 2 years of age, depending on how they're communicating and how they're interacting.
While autism is a lifelong condition, treatments are available to help children with their speech, language, cognitive development, and social skills.
They can learn social skills. They can learn to communicate as well as anybody. They can, become involved in jobs. They can have families, and they can, function in the mainstream.
Doctors say for the treatment to be beneficial, it has to be coordinated with the school and home.
It's essential that they're getting all the help that they need in school, because they may learn differently. A lot of them may have language impairments, so they definitely need their speech and language therapies.
The earlier therapy begins, the more overall benefits for the child. For Lee Health, I'm Lindsay Fry.
We are back, and the program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Amari, you saw the health tips. It was about autism. And today is International World Autism Day. It is a condition, that mostly affects children. And the person we are going to talk to is somebody who has been in this campaign, who has been in this campaign for quite a long time now. But actually, every year on the 2nd of April, World Autism Day is recognized, thereby encouraging member states of the United Nations to take measures to raise awareness about people with autism. The spectrum is over throughout the world. Autism is a neuro-brain damage condition that exists in people, especially children. Well, in the studio to talk more about this day is somebody, like I said earlier, who's been in this campaign for a very long time now. But before going to that, you know, our own Awabagi, you know, she's so passionate about whatever has to do with human interest. So she went and put together a very fantastic package, which, you know, we now want our viewers to actually see what autism is all about. So let us now join our own Awabagi.
Well, we apologize for not able to give you that insight,
but
I'm
we
sure
hope, we hope,
yeah,
we hope later on, you know, bring you that particular package done by our own Awabagi. What we have in the studio, somebody, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, she has been so much involved in this campaign to ensure that persons or children living with autism actually catered for. And she is Mary Timothy. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, today is World Autism Day, and we know that it mostly affects children, and that is why the reason why even Awa went out to kind of really, you know, go deep into how this is affecting our children in this country. And you've been in this campaign, and today is the day. Now, tell us exactly what does this day mean to you as a campaigner, you know, a person who has been in this, you know, for quite a long time now.
There are still many families suffering in silence. So I think today for us is where we get to raise that awareness, to make the nation aware that there are many, many children affected by this condition, still no services provided. And just for the communities to understand that if such a child is in your community, stigma is not the way to go. If you just encourage that family, even just want something nice to say is better than, you know, the current situation which many of our families face, which is the heavy stigma that they're faced with daily.
So a day like this, what clearly do you want us to know? You've been a campaigner. On a day like this, you know, a day put aside, you know, by the United Nations to kind of reflect or retrospect or kind of, you know, raise awareness on this condition. We know that it is affecting our children in Africa mostly, but let us know on a day like this, what clearly do you want? What's the message you want to, you know, pass across?
Our children, they also have talent, but unless you nurture those talents, unless you can identify it, nurture it, they're not going to be able to be independent adults or be able to contribute effectively in our society. In other countries, we see, you know, people with autism becoming professionals and just living fairly normal life. And that's because the strategies and interventions that have been put in place since they were very little, those early interventions have been effective. But in Sierra Leone, I'm yet to see an adult with autism that is actually effectively contributing to our society. And that's because we're not doing what we should be doing for those kids, so their adult outcomes are being affected. And we talk about it mainly affecting children, but those children will grow up and be adults. And unless we do something, they won't be independent adults. And those carers are getting older. The moms, you know, the dads, the people that are caring for them, the grandparents, they will get older. Those kids will become adults. What do we want them to be in society?
Whatever it is now, and today, you mentioned, you know, overseas, some of the countries, advanced countries. That is why, in fact, when we watch a Paralympic, most of, you know, we see people with that condition, you know, actually participating in sports. They are well catered for, and they are making monies, you know, for themselves and their families and the countries where the countries they are coming from, you know, because we know Paralympics, right? So now, if we are to advocate or to kind of provide an advice as to how they should be, catered for here in Sierra Leone, what would be your kind of recommendation or suggestion or advice, as the case may be?
Like any of our kids, the holistic care is very important. So they need education services, they need access to good health care, and the social also has to be recognized. Most of our kids don't even know their communities where they live in because they're so hidden away. And if you don't even know your own community, how do you begin to understand the big wide world out there? So I'm advocating for that holistic care, that our health services need to be providing for those kids. Our educational services need to be able to get those kids in those schools and be able to provide for them. And of course, in the communities, awareness is needed, more awareness is needed, so that people embrace them in their communities and they can feel part of their communities.
They've been isolated. They've been discriminated against. They've been seen as devils, outcasts. They've been ostracized because there is this belief that this person with autism is not a real person. This person is probably might be a demon possessed. So how much have you done as an organization to ensure to change that narrative, the perception? Because it all has to do with perception. How much have you done?
We are very constrained by our finances because up to date, it's an organization that's been funded purely by the two people that actually co-founded it. And that's because one is a parent of such a child, which is myself, and I need the services to stay in Sierra Leone. And I am a Sierra Leonean, born in Sierra Leone, so I want to be with my family in Sierra Leone. And obviously the other is Alice, who just pure passion. She's worked with the kids, she's studied this. This is what she's done most of her adult life. And so, of course, we now have organizations like the IWC. British Council have been key in providing support in many other ways. The teaching, the training through the partner school that they linked us with. Some teaching resources, again, through the partner school. But still, if we want to go nationwide, of course, we need support. We need more people to partner. We need resources to be able to go into those communities, and sometimes just the manpower, because even if you have all the tools, without people to go into the different places, it becomes difficult.
Apart from the sensitization that you're on, do you conduct training as well for parents? Because some find it difficult to even communicate with these kids at home. It's very difficult, and they don't understand what to look out for or what to use to communicate to get them to understand what you're trying to say.
Let me put it this way. Even though we're very constrained by the money we have to put into this program, we have actually done a lot with the little that we have and made big impact. So we have started play schemes, for example, where we know there are no services at all for those kids. And within those play schemes, the plan is that we'll be able to work with local schools to support those kids that can go into them to do that. And also the health needs. We can see those health needs, and with our doctors and our health team, those kids can get the support they need. Of course, we want to be able to do more. The capacity is there with the expertise that we have. So we're hoping people will join us, and then we'll be able to make a bigger impact with not just the play schemes, the school, but the parents support that you say. We actually run parent support groups. McKinney is our strongest parent support group at the moment because they have no other service. In Freetown, at least, we have the school, the Brown Pen Special School. But when we did nationwide sensitization last year, on this very day, the biggest need came from McKinney. So, of course, we decided to set up parent support group there and the first play scheme. But our plan is to go nationwide. So we will definitely be looking to go into the other district heads.
Let's look at caregivers again. It's a challenge. Yeah. They don't understand how to care for people living or kids living with autism.
In those parent support groups, we target those. So we try to explain what the condition is, how best you can support the kids at home, because obviously whatever we do in school, if it's not continued at home,
do you go about
it
that
affects
at home?
the kids. So
caring for children living with autism.
There are evidence-based interventions that are used in many parts of the world. But honestly, if you even just think about your average child, say under 5, for example, what are the skills you want them to have as they grow up? And a lot of things can be done through play. but it's the type of play. Children with autism, a lot of them are very sensory. So you do a lot of sensory play, for example, bubbles, water play. So you can teach a child what animals live in the sea by using, water, toy fishes, just a lot of sensory plays we advise families to do at home. But also, we try and say, okay, fine, we know our kids have autism, but what do you want your average child to be? What skills do you want them to have? Those self-help skills. At home, if your child is struggling to even just dress themselves, you can use hand-over-hand techniques. So using your hands, how do you, put your hands, take the child's hands, help them to dress themselves. With time, that gets reinforced. So there's a lot of reinforcing the daily things you do with any other kid, but using different methods and maybe knowing that this child may take a bit more time to learn those skills. So a lot of patience, more time, and different techniques. I can't say it all just right here. But there are many, many things you can do. I've talked about sensory play because under fives learn many things through play. All of us here, we learned a lot of our adult skills when we were kids playing. So we advise parents to do a lot of playing, but play that their child is interested in. Because a child with autism may not be interested in your average play.
All right. Now, society. Let us look at society. Holistically. These kids you are talking about, care given to them from parents, because now we don't have special facilities for such cases. How do they fit in? Will that be enough? Because imagine I'm a parent, I have a child with autism, I have to fend for that child, I have to do some other things. You don't have that much time to give to that child. But if there is a special facility for that child to attend, maybe like yours, you'll help out. So is society actually ready for the things to come?
When we look at other countries, I think we can say Sierra Leone is still far behind. So even in comparison to Nigeria, the stigma here is very huge, and that stigma really it stops even the parents accessing support where there is support. Because, for example, that mom takes the child to school, everybody knows that child goes to that school. When they're in that community, one little thing happens, people start to say, oh, you're which child that goes. So the stigma really is still huge. But actually, if we're talking about, is it enough? Of course not. It's not enough. We're not doing even 10% of what we should be doing.
Even 10%?
Not even 10% of what we should be doing.
But May, let us talk about, what prompted your motivation, to be in this advocacy. To be, actually talking about the need for children or people living with autism to be catered for, or to be actually looked after. What prompted your motivation?
I have a child who's now 17, and she's on the severe end of the autism spectrum. She was diagnosed in England age 3, and in England they did many things with her that gave her skills. She couldn't dress herself, she couldn't feed herself, she couldn't do anything for herself. And when she went to school in England, a special school, many of the skills, just the basic skills to dress herself, feed herself, those she was actively worked with. And so they did a lot for her. When we came to Sierra Leone, as a family, we wanted to relocate back to Sierra Leone. We found schools easily for our other kids, but this one child, we couldn't find any school. And after we exhausted all options of a school for her, we realized the situation was not just about a school. The hospitals, when we take her in when she's ill, they didn't understand. When she went into crisis and started to bang her head and scream, they will say it's spiritual, it's not medical. But actually we knew, it's a brain condition. And so one day she had a high temperature, took her to the hospital. They told us they couldn't do anything for her, couldn't even do a blood test because she went into crisis. And as she was screaming loudly, they said, well, there's nothing we could do. And we took her home. We had to get a nurse. 3 hours later, with patience, they managed to get the blood. It was malaria, so she could have died for just a simple blood test. And I think that's when I realized something needed to be done. Because if this was all I knew, if Sierra Leone was where she was born and I'd never been abroad and this was, I don't know if she would have lived to 17 even. And that became a concern that if I was struggling with this, and I'd worked in the field in England, not just with my child, with many families that have kids with autism, then how are the other mothers in this country faring? The parents, the grandparents, how are the carers coping with such kids? And
All
really,
right.
that's what's further.
Okay, and Timothy, thank you so much. She is somebody who is a campaigner for, for the welfare of persons living with autism in this country, and she's Mary Penn Timothy. Thank you so much, and continue to stay with us. As today is World Autism Day. But Maggie, let us talk about water.
Before we go to water, I think let us take the brain teaser for today first.
Okay, let us tease our brains. Yes, for the brain to get relaxed. Let us bring you the brain teaser for today in this edition of the program Good Morning Sierra Leone. We are back, and the program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. But Almagi, you saw the teasers. You know, I think it is something that we really, it was deliberate, but there are things that we need to know so that we keep ourselves, you know, relaxed, and we take decisions the right way, because our business is to ensure that people are guided to take the right decisions. But now let us talk about water and water they say is life.
Water and sanitation.
Water
All right,
sanitation.
let's quickly go through that. The African Ministers' Council on Water has concluded the 5th African Sanitation Conference in Cape Town, South Africa. The conference focused around 4 sub-themes, which include sanitation and hygiene, SDGs, policies, monitoring, building the capacity, and financing sanitation in Africa. Over 1,000 participants from over 45 countries, including delegates from the African countries, representatives of the regional economic communities, private sectors, as well as NGOs and civil society were in attendance. Well, Sierra Leone, of course, was represented by 4 participants, including the Executive Director of WashNet, Musa and Sumana Soko, is here with us to tell us more about this conference. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
The conference looked at 4 themes: sanitation and hygiene, SDGs, policies, monitoring, building the capacity, and financing sanitation in Africa. So what's in that for us in Sierra Leone?
Well, basically, Sierra Leone being part of the African continent, you know, the broader focus of the Africa Sun was to be able to look at, you know, more transformative ways of scaling up access to basic and improved sanitation services, and then how we can equally learn from what has been working, what has not been working, and which way we can equally move forward after, like providing those kind of review of where we have progressed so far. And so we had key partners in sanitation, particularly those that are, you know, pouring more resources. We have people delivering the services to sanitation, and equally people at the helm of policy making and decision making. So it was a blend of stakeholder groups to be able to also look at these key 4 themes, because the broader theme was basically to accelerate progress for, you know, the Ngor commitment. And the Ngor commitment basically was after the conclusion of the 4th Africa Sun in Dakar, where African governments, including Sierra Leone, were able to have country-specific commitments as to which way they hope to be able to scale up sanitation. And one of the key commitments they were able to reiterate was the fact that 5% of the respective government GDP must be allocated to sanitation. So at least to be able to also look at the growing and emerging unmet needs with respect to public health.
What's the percentage again that should be allocated
5%.
to sanitation?
0.5.
Now, there was this Abuja declaration
Absolutely.
On health. I think it was 15%, so, and up to now we are grappling with that reality.
Absolutely.
But up to now, that has not been achieved. So, what is the assurance that that 5% that you're talking about will be actually allocated? Because yes, it is a commitment, black and white, but implementation is also of concern to all of us. So, let us know exactly the level of willingness for that to be achieved.
And interestingly, part of the outcome of the Africa Sanitation Conference was to move beyond the normative commitment that governments have made, and then going into more practical and evidence-driven engagements that are also translating those commitments. And so this could not have been had better than, you know, getting a senior representative from the Ministry of Health, you know, and equally UNICEF that is providing more or less like the lead.
But the thing is that we've seen, like for example, the Abuja Declaration.
Right.
Sierra Leone was represented by no less a person than President Kabal, you know, blessed memory. But up to now, with the 50% to health has not been done, has not been implemented. So, talking about the minister, yes, but a commitment from the highest level.
Absolutely.
Up to now, we are to achieve that.
You know, Sheku, these are the very essence we are pushing for more commitment to be practicalized. And then we have seen how steadily we have progressed, even when it is very, very minimal. Imagine we started off, you know, from a percentage of 0.001, you know, in 2000. And, you know, we have, well, progressively moved up to 0.03, you know, in our commitments to sanitation. So this tells you incrementally we are improving, but then, you know, the pace at which we are going is very slow. And it tells you that in 10 years, you know, when you look at the sanitation milestone that we have actually achieved till date, like 13% of citizens having access to improved sanitation, it tells you that for every 10 years, we have progressed just by 1%, which is very, very, very abysmal. And if we are to move to an ideal state of reaching everyone everywhere with improved sanitation services, we must double to at least, you know, 7% a year, you know, to be able to ensure that we get to 2030 agenda. And this tells you that there is deliberate and conscious effort that is required to be able to build capacity of institutions to be able to deliver on those services. There is need to be able to also get the required resources to be able to do that kind of work. Because already at the national level, there has never been a sanitation budget line. But then, even when it was part of government commitment, but there was no budget line for sanitation until 2019, when we had advocacies with the Ministry of Finance through the Budget Bureau to be able to ensure that there is a separate budget line for sanitation. There is no way you can deal with sanitation from a reproductive health directorate budget. There is no way you can deal with sanitation when you already have discretionary...
But the thing is that, you know, Soko, the reality is the ministry itself, if we are to look at the nomenclature, it is Ministry of Health and Sanitation.
Absolutely.
So there's no way you can just subdue one, you know, at detriment of the other. To say, okay, this is sanitation, yes, this is health, but the name of the ministry itself, you know, is Ministry of Health and Sanitation. So if you are to finance health, you also have to finance sanitation, because there is no way we can have better health without, you know, proper sanitation. That is just the fact.
Absolutely. And you see, when you look at this very kind of picture where people have not been able to get access to basic and improved sanitation services, it equally throws a lot of burden to an already weak health infrastructure, because already the things that we can take care of are not already being like another burden on the part of government to be able to also spend. When you look at, for example, scaling up infection prevention and control, how sure are you that you are going to the hospital and come out, I mean, healthy? You know, so how are we scaling up infection prevention and control at the health facility when in fact the services are not there? So we look at range of issues. How do we now, for example, move beyond, like, for example, like inclusive planning? Now, of course, the ministry has existed for very far or very long, but then there has been this cutoff between sanitation and wider health sector delivery. So it is part of, I mean, you know, wider collaboration and leadership.
In fact,
to be able to ensure
poor
that we get
sanitation,
things up to speed.
For poor sanitation, actually, you know, distress everything. You know, if we are talking about health, because if sanitation is poor, that is where, in fact, there will be more spending by government.
Of course.
Because people will not be healthy, they will be sick, there will be diseases. So I think sanitation must be treated very seriously. Because without proper sanitation, there will be no good health.
And that's the case.
And if that is the case, then more monies are going to be used or spent, you know, to cure people.
Exactly.
Or, you know, but the thing is, now that you've gone to that conference and there was a minister, you know, in that delegation from Sierra Leone, and you've come as a civil society consortium on water and sanitation, what are you going to do to ensure that whatever commitments, you know, we made are actually followed and implemented? What are you going to do as a civil society consortium?
Okay, just to put into greater perspective, like when you look at the health burden and of course the finance burden, annually government is losing 5% of its GDP responding to sanitation related illnesses. So it tells you how costly it is, you know, as opposed to means of preventing it. And, you know, beyond the conference, we had, you know, key action points, like beyond the conference, which was actually presented by the wash focal point within the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. And it was very clear that there is this need for collaborative engagement. How do you work with municipal councils, local councils generally, who are at the helm of delivering sanitation programs at their respective levels? How do we ensure that we coordinate? That a lot of work is being done around sanitation, but how is it really building up to, improving on the country's sanitation ladder? How are we looking at issues around financing? How are we using very limited resources in a way that's required, other than, working in silos and then wasting a lot of resources that is.
As well, water is always spoken about, because water is life. We don't live without water. But today is World Autism Day.
Absolutely.
So want autism to be given a preferential, treatment today. But the clip, the package done by our own Awabagi is now ready. So let us just look at the autism situation in Sierra Leone as was assessed by Awabagi. We are back, and the program you are watching is Good Morning, Sierra Leone. But then we are sorry that we couldn't bring you that package done by our bag because there are some technical issues. As you know, there is technology. But then we'll come out to you and Timothy, today is World Autism Day. Apart from this media campaign, what else you will be doing, to actually pass this message across? Because there are issues that you actually that you should talk about. Like, for example, discrimination, stigma, isolation, and there are times people have been ostracized for the wrong reasons. Demonic attachments to the persons living with autism. So, a day like this, what will it be doing? To kind of create this awareness that it is a medical condition which can be which can be controlled or actually managed, as the case may be, so that you change the mindset or the perception of people who think that children with autism are kind of demons, or some kind of something spiritual, as the case may be.
I think this year we wanted to show people that, as I said earlier on in the program, children with autism also have talents. So if we spot those talents, we nurture them, they can do wonderful things. So we've done many artworks, different types, African art, graphics art, recycling arts that our children have done. And we'll be doing an exhibition of those at the British Council this evening, 6:30. And I think people will be blown away when they see the work that our kids have done. That some of the children, a small cross-section of them, will be at the program themselves. So they'll also be performing, but there'll be videos to show people that these works were done by the kids. Because a lot of people have said, well, how do we know they did it? And of course, we were videoing the kids in school when they were doing the work. So those videos will be played, and people will get to see that if you adapt things for them, they too can achieve. They too can be, people in society. And we don't need to fear them. I can understand with disability issues, when it's mobility or somebody's visually impaired, hearing impaired, it's something that you see and so you tend to understand it better.
Do you have a database of persons with autism in this country? Yes, I know you are constrained by finance, by funding, for you to actually decentralize. But, do you have probably an idea of the people living with autism in Sierra Leone, the number? Because it's like when you identify a problem, it is a step towards solving it. So you need to know first, those you are caring for. Have you got an idea of how many Sierra Leoneans are living with autism?
There's never been a research done to that effect. Okay. So we're going with the WHO or CDC data, which is 1 in 59 kids. So if that's the case, we're looking at about maybe 70,000. But obviously that's our speculations because we don't have our own data.
We hope you go nationwide because it is very good that you identify those you are caring for. This is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. And Maggie, it's now time for us to kind of have a break, a very short one. When we come back, we'll talk about fisheries because as we know yesterday. Notice a person, the vice president, how they call it, Madam Jallo will be the competent authority to tell us exactly how it is called. What I know is closed fishing season, especially for industrial, fishing. Yeah. Not us, those small fish, fishers. What she will tell us because she's here, the director of fisheries is here, tell us exactly what is happening. So let us now go for a very short break. I will be right back.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available Brown Gold natural cocoa powder, Sunny Gold brown sugar, meat fufu flour, shito, pisa and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.
Salone, sugar market. Live up! Don't give up. No matter the hard times, keep on trying. Stabba-dee-da-dee-da-da-da. Stabba-da-dee-da-da-da-da. Oh, stabba-da-da-da-da. Hallelujah. When I get on, I got the 30 days. When there is life, there is hope for my brother. God know the bank phone. Do you tell your neighbor? God know the bank phone. Chamali galop sulas. God know the bank phone. Tell them not to get say God know the bank. Do you tell your neighbor? God know the bank. What would you trust in trust and a failure? Put your trust in Judge and the Savior. So if you fall 7 times, you go rise 7 times. Remember the story of Job. Don't you ever give up electing choke. Don't believe you come in for 1 pint coke. Believe in yourself and activate hope. You will ever come and be the head cornerstone. Why you see your fall and for food in business? Cause when I get on, I got the 30 days. When there is life, there is hope for my brother. God know the the bank phone. Ah, do you tell your neighbor? God know the bank phone. Ah, tell my legal officers. God know the bank phone. Tell them not to get. Say God know the bank phone. Ah, do you tell your neighbor? Say God know the bank phone. Before they come, before they go, never look up to God. It no go ever let you so. In what not in what. God not go good for cause, so no fed for column. Any problem where you get here ready for solve them. But talk to God not free. God in network no music. If you believe it, you shall receive it. No condition is permanent. Why you feed your soul and for food and this? Cause when I get on, I got a better taste. Once there is life, there is hope for my brother. God know the bank phone. Tell your neighbor, God know the bank phone.
And Maggie, you know, I like that one. I like that that soundtrack, you know, by Succulent.
God know the bank.
God know the bank. And can we not get in? God did give him fly. You know, I like that one.
In its time, everything will fall into
yes,
place.
Sure. But then it's not time for us to know history. You know, and Maggie, you know what the good thing about history is that you learn from the past, you know, to correct the present and the future. Because if you forget your past, there are possibilities of you keeping on making the mistakes. That is why in this edition of the program Good Morning, Radio, we bring you this day in history. Because we need to know what happened, you know, years back, so that we cannot make similar mistakes now and in the future. So let us now bring you this day in history.
April 2nd, 2005. Pope John Paul II dies at his apartment in the Vatican at age 84. He led the Roman Catholic Church for 26 years and helped topple communism in Eastern Europe.
May Christ give you his grace and his peace, overturning the barriers of division and making all things one in him.
1917. In Washington, President Woodrow Wilson asks Congress to declare war on Germany. Wilson says the world must be made safe for democracy. The U.S. enters World War I days later. 1513. Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon lands in Florida during his search for the mythical Fountain of Youth. 1982. In the South Atlantic, troops from Argentina seize the disputed Falkland Islands from Britain. British forces retake the islands from Argentina by the following June. And 1805. Storyteller Hans Christian Andersen is born in Denmark. Among his fairy tales, The Ugly Duckling, The Emperor's New Clothes, and The Princess and the Pea. Today in history, April 2nd, Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.
And Maggie, you know, whenever I see Pope John Paul, you know, it reminds me of my early days in school, because I attended a Catholic, you know, primary school, and we are forced, you know, you need to know your the catechism, you know, it's like quiz or questions we come up, you know, the man in charge, the father at that time, would just, you know, unannounced, you know, visit our classrooms, you know, ask questions. And if you answer many questions, you take many things home, you know, you are given for answering questions, you know, in the catechism. Well then, that is just what we've seen, that is, you know, today in history. Pope John Paul, one of the most popular popes ever in the history of Christianity in this country, in the world. So now let us talk about fisheries. What is happening? Closed session or
All
closed
right,
season?
the Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallow has launched the 1 month closed fishing season in the country. The project, pioneered by the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, aims at managing and protecting the marine resources for 1 month. The launching ceremony was held at the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources conference room. Our very own Marie Esther Samara has the story.
Fishing is very important in the country as it provides not only jobs but economic development for a nation. According to the Deputy Minister of Marine Resources, Ibrahim Toure, the value stock of the fishing sector is very crucial in any nation. Before now, Russian vessels had carried out surveys to know stock population, but for the past 10 years, nothing like that has been done. Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Emma Kowajalo, said the closed season is a period of providing precaution measures for the resources in the water to be properly managed, but that local fishermen will be allowed to do their fishing.
They throw a net in the water, pull a small fish. Some people they throw a net in the water, then they pull plastic, then they pull stone. Hey, na sign with the see so.
This project was difficult for us in the initial stage, and we chose April because we want the fish to grow bigger and rest during this period. I want you all to be assured that this closure will benefit you all. During this period, all trawlers will be anchored and only local fishermen will be in charge of fishing.
Do ya at the talk to una. When una buy the fish, una can go na market. Una not go add price pan tap.
Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallow said under the new direction, government has identified the fishing sector as one of the areas that will help bring development.
This closed season, which means from now on the trawler them for pack, the artisanal fishermen them for take the move and go and see.
The closure will help develop the country if you all become watchdogs. Sierra Leone should not settle to be importing fish because it will affect the populace. The new direction government will leave no stone unturned in the implementation of this measure. I'm calling on all the market women selling fish to ensure they sell the fish to the people in the stipulated price. Our government will ensure we electrify all fishing communities.
For this 1 month, we will encourage everybody for respect them and for make sure they fish in a market for Sierra Leonean.
He commended the minister and her team for this move and cautioned the Industrial Fishing Association to respect and cooperate with the said closure, as failure to do so will meet the full force of the law. Managing Director of the Sierra Fishing Company, Mohamed Bashimo, on behalf of the Industrial Fishing Association, said they will support the government in the implementation of the closed season, stating that they have stock of fish that will be used by the people for the next 15 days. These trawlers have been officially closed by the Vice President. At the Tima Fishing Company, the final discharge of fish was done, and the trawlers have been anchored and will start operation in May. Esther Marie Samoa, SLBC.
Many thanks there to Esther Marie Samura for that report. Well, to tell us more about, what this 1 month closed fishing season is all about, we have been joined in the studios by the Director of Fisheries, Khadijatu Jallow. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
1 month fishing season, closed fishing season. What do we mean by that?
Thank you very much. A closed season, as we say, or seasonal closure, it's a 1 month stopping the fishing of industrial trawlers for 1 month. That's what we have done after consultation with our scientific committee members and other stakeholders in the fishing sector.
And why was that?
Why was that? Because we have noticed over the years that the type of fish coming up now, the size, and even the distance fishermen take to go to sea have increased. Before they could catch, have increased. The type of species now, like in our local language, you have the kuta, the snapper, the sheephead. You go to the market now, you hardly get it, and even the size of the fish. So with this, we thought it fit that since we haven't been having what they call stock assessments which brings in research vessels to come and do the research, make sure it's scientific. It's called population dynamics, and with these results they advise. But we haven't been getting this because of it's done by project, international donor support. We used to have the EU supported us. We used to have a Norwegian fishing research vessel, the Nansen, even the Russians, they all supported us. But for the past 10 years, we haven't gotten this support. So that's why we have noticed that our neighbors, the Guineans, are doing it. Guinea closes their waters in June. The Ghanaians, of course, the Ghanaian situation is worse. They don't have much fish anymore. Ghanaians come to buy fish in Sierra Leone. The Nigerians, the Senegalese, all our neighboring countries come to buy. So with that pressure, with other fishing vessels coming to the country to fish, if we don't put system in place, we'll be in problems. So that's why, with the consultation of our scientific committee, we agreed that let's have this 1 month as a pilot to know because we are not supposed to do this until we do the research to know what we call spawning, when the fish lay their eggs, to know when they do that. The juveniles, when the smaller fish go off to sea, you have to do all these studies before you do this. But since we don't have the resources to do it, and we have noticed this, we decided let's do this in April because although now there is climate change, because before the rains wouldn't have started coming. Well, now yesterday you saw a heavy downpour of rain. So that's why we decided this 1 month, all industrial fishing trawlers should not fish.
Let us look at the effects of the closed fishing season. You and I, as a woman, we are very much aware. I'm not talking about shekel. We are very much aware of the fact that
also give the money for you guys to go to the
we
market.
are very much aware of the fact that when you go to markets, market women do take advantage of such situation. I was listening earlier on to the minister. She was saying, this is not time for you to take advantage and make more profits from people. Let us look at the effects.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just for morning coffee, and there were questions coming in that people have started holding the fish, they increase the price. And yesterday, during the launching, we appealed to the women because what we have noticed over the years, like the women will gather themselves into maybe 10 people, they will buy 5 cartons, this one will buy 10, this one will buy 20, and then they will put it in a container to export, to take it to Guinea, which goes as far as Mali, Burkina Faso. So this has affected our local markets. The illegal fish is not only for trawlers, it's happening with our artisanal fishermen, our local fishermen. They are also doing it. We have a task force for this. We'll be going to the border areas. We've gone as far as Jedema in Liberia. We've gone as far as Pamalapia. We'll be going now to the coastal areas, the Kichom. They have some place they call Kiraba. They have Makoma. It's a whole trading port for fish. The artisanal fishermen take the boats there and they go across to Guinea. I've been told that they go on Thursdays and come back with the empty canoes on Sunday. So if we don't control that, it will be a challenge. That's why we have the Navy with us, we have the Marine Police, we have anti-smuggling, we even have the military at the border checkpoints so that they will help us. We cannot do this alone. We are a small
Are there
ministry.
also monitors in the markets to monitor
Yes, we have our staff. So as soon as I go back, we are going to put them in place. They are going to go around the market to make sure that people don't increase the price. And
Freetown is not Sierra Leone. I'm sure you are aware of that.
We have companies that supply fish to the provinces. We have the Cobra fishing. We have Solid. They supply to the provinces. And even with these steps we took to go to Solima, but if you go down to Solima, you have only Liberians and Ghanaian vessels in Solima. We have gone there and told them, please, this month, don't sail across. Let this fish come to Pujao. Let it come down to Kedema.
But Madam Jallo, the ceremony itself, took place at the Saga Fisheries.
Yes.
And these guys are in industrial fishing.
Yes.
Now, do they have enough stock? Because the thing is, before the close season, you must have prepared for them. So that, okay, that is what we are going to do. But you must have, enough stock so that within the 1 month, you'll be able, to actually supply the domestic market. Do they have?
Yes, that's what
these industrial fishers, do they have, Madam Jallo?
That's what we did, and yesterday I'm sure your crew members were there. They went to Sarah Fish. They have more than 3 of their crew rooms, and all the vessels, if you look at the video, all the vessels are now in port, and they are all full of fish. And the good thing is they are not going to export any fish this time around. It's all for the Sierra Leone.
Let's talk about the monitoring mechanism. You know, because Sierra Leone territorial waters is slightly above 200 nautical miles, but we don't have the capacity to police, you know, this just slightly over 200 nautical miles. So how are you going to monitor? Because we know that poaching is a problem. Yeah. People come here, they illegally fish, and it has been a problem. It has been a perennial problem. So now that, you know, industrial fishers are not supposed to fish, and it is a decision, and that particular program was launched by not a person, the vice president. Now, what are the mechanisms, you know, that you have in place to ensure that poaching is discouraged? Because we cannot police our just slightly over 200 nautical miles.
Yes. Thank you very much. As you said, illegal fishing is a challenge. It's IUU, as it's called, illegal, unreported, and unregulated. It's a big challenge. We only have one surveillance vessel that uses 13,500 liters of fuel every week. So what we've done as a ministry is to make use of the satellite-based monitoring system. We have vessel monitoring system. We put it on the vessels so that the center at Mauritania can see the vessels. We can see it in our computers in the office. We have even gone as far as having also AIS, which is an automatic identification system also. This one will see the bigger vessels that come to poach. But it's a challenge, as we've said. But what we have done during this 1 month, we have tried to support the Navy, increasing their budgetary support, because they also know the areas, but they also are challenged. They don't have enough vessels. So we are working with the Navy, Marine Police, the Sierra Leone Maritime Administration. And so with all this as a task force, I wouldn't say we will completely eliminate it, but we will minimize the
that sector, Madam Jallo, is really facing a lot of challenges. Like, for example, there are vessels that have come into this country, you know, they register for single trawling. But there are times they do twin trawling or double trawling. And there are some who come here, what they do is just to catch and not to package or process. But they are packaging, they are processing. There are times there are different inscriptions as though fish, because as you know, we have this EU ban. So, you know, a lot of challenges, Madam Jallo, but let us talk about this close session season. You know, 1 month, do you think 1 month is enough, you know, for what you want to achieve?
Okay, 1 month is not enough. And I'll talk a bit, as we've said, illegal fishing is a big challenge all over the world. You know, fishermen always try to beat the system. They will come, as you said, they register as single. That's what we have been doing. Although twin trawling was not illegal before, 10 years ago. So we stopped it, we banned it, and then we noticed, we got information that they are doing it. But we don't have vessels that we license as twin trawlers. So illegal fishing is a big challenge. We are trying to make sure that we minimize. In terms of the 1 month, 1 month is not enough anyway. But this is a pilot project. As you've said, 1 month now, people are grumbling that there is no fish. We have to make sure that we control this one. Next time, maybe next year, we'll plan it better. We'll do the research, because you have to make sure you know which type of fish spawns, but that is to lay their eggs. What time do they lay their eggs? What time do the smaller ones go off to sea? Oh, these are all studies
so
that
you
have to
do.
So
1 month is not enough, Madam Jallo, as you have alluded to facts. But the thing is that, you know, fish is everybody, you know, I eat fish, you eat fish.
Everybody.
Madam Jallo eats fish, and even, you know, but the thing is, let us now, you know, entertain ourselves. Because, you know, sports, nowadays, as you know, just 2 days ago, the National Stadium was a place to be. You know, although it was chaotic because of that game was high tension, and but at the end of the day, the game played, and East Lions defeated, you know, FC Salone. I don't know if that's what is coming here to talk about, but let's not join Esther Marisamura for the sports segment in this edition of the program.
So the match that played on Sunday between the leaders of the Salone Premier League, FC Salone, that had a 2-0 defeat to their close contenders, East Lions Football Club. Musa Tobo scored the opener for East Lions, followed by a sensational free kick goal that was scored by Fode Conte. But the match was marred with overcrowding, which led to the delay of the commencement as some supporters invaded the pitch. The situation was later put under control by the security personnel. We now bring you highlights of that match. competition on Sunday in the match between FC Cologne and Eastern Lions. And in our news hour segment, we'll bring you the aftermath of that particular match. That's all for this edition of Sports Updates. Over to you, Sheikh.
Well, Esther, that day, I know you and I, we were, at the National Stadium, and we saw what happened. You know, it was very chaotic, but at the end of the day, the security, especially the military intervened, and the situation was put under control. But you know, as a sports journalist, you know, what would you advise for future matches, especially when we're having these
international
it's like the El Clasico of silence football.
No, in fact, the thing is that, you know, what happened on Sunday, I've never seen a match. You know, I've been following football for many years now in this country. What I saw on Sunday, you know, was unprecedented. You know, it actually manifested how much Sierra Leoneans actually love football in this country. Remember, the Sierra Leoneans, all of us were deprived for nearly 5 years. So you can see the exuberance, you can see the enthusiasm, you can see that Sierra Leoneans are interested. So Esther, if you have to advise, as somebody who's been following sports in this country, what would be your advice for future matches?
I think the onus lies with the host FC Cologne, because before the commencement of this competition, what the Premier League board did was to see how best they could have engagement with the Premier League club's executive, and they agreed that all the clubs that are the host, they should ensure they provide adequate security and ensure that the people, spectators, the officials and players are well protected. But on Sunday's match was the other way, because when I interviewed the Secretary General of FC Cologne, according to him, Alhaji Konba, they decided to increase the price for that match to 10,000 leones to ensure that they minimize the crowd trouble, but that was never forthcoming because we saw the overcrowding at the Siaka Stevens Stadium. Even the basements were all full. And interestingly,
even the presidential was just like the opening stand.
So moving forward, what they need to do, the Siaka Stevens Stadium is having 35,000 capacity.
Right, okay.
They should ensure they print the tickets that suits that
All right,
capacity.
okay, Esther, thank you so much. I know we have a lot to talk about because that match was a match about we go down in the history of this country. But you know, we have science. They say makes life easier. And that is why, in fact, now you can be here in Sierra Leone and speak to somebody in the United States of America. So science makes life easy. So let us now bring you a scientific discovery in this edition of the program. Good morning, Sierra Leone.
In Chicago are developing a new behavioral experiment to treat autism spectrum disorder, but the study at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science is focusing on rodents and not humans. Nonetheless, the researchers have successfully induced empathetic behavior in rodents by manipulating a circuit in the brain. The study also highlighted an essential role the amygdala plays for those with autism, as that region of the brain regulates social behavior. The researchers focused on the amygdala and discovered that rodents did not express empathetic responses when parts of their amygdala were shut down, indicating a link between that region of the brain and empathy.
Almost every single one of us knows someone who has some affiliation with a person who has a disability, whether physical, emotional, intellectual, or neurological.
It could be us, it could be a family member, or someone in our community. Autism is such a condition that affects the development of certain areas of the brain.
Autism is a lifelong condition that affects the way a person makes sense of the world and interacts with the world around them. So it affects the way they communicate with other people. Some autistic children have quite severe language problems and language delays. Some don't develop any language at all. It affects the way they interact with other people. So some children may find real difficulties in making friends and relationships.
Autism is a spectrum disorder, meaning there is a wide degree of variation in the way it affects people. Every child on the autism spectrum have unique abilities, symptoms, and challenges.
With staggering statistics and an increasing number of Muslims affected by such disabilities, what actually is autism, and are we doing enough in our communities to empower those with the condition? While some people have shown a general awareness about autism, the lack of knowledge about the syndrome and its effects on those involved is really unfortunate.
Knowledge is the key to empowerment, and without it, we can end up excluding different individuals from our community without realizing it.
To find out more, we are going to pay some people a visit who have autism. to find out how autism has affected their lives.
We are back, and the program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah, we move over to another issue. The resident minister for Northwest Region, Haja Aissatou Abdoulaye Kamara, has repatriated Sierra Leoneans who fled the border to neighboring Guinea for fear of alleged harassment by the Sierra Leone police force. The people, mainly from the Menkia community in the Samu chiefdom, told the minister that the reason why they were afraid to return to their communities was because people from Apotolo came with catapults and slings and used them against them at night. Well, our own Soiba Samura was there and our reports.
The minister arrived in Mapotolong to see for herself the aftermath of the police operation at Mapotolong in Samu Chiefdom, Kambia district, to retrieve building materials meant to construct a hospital in that area. She walked over to the other side of the border in Guinea to meet with the people after they had fled their communities, including the woman who was allegedly beaten by police during the operation. In a brief statement why they decided to stay in Guinea, the spokesman for the refugees, Sayo Chiko Kamara, explained that it was not their will to run away from their community, but that they were faced with an issue of insecurity in the hands of their neighbors in Mapotolong. Chiko mentioned the misinformation from the Kambia district medical officer and council chairman leading up to the location of the site on which the hospital was to be built.
What the paramount chief did to us is unfair. If he knew that the materials did not belong to us, he should not have sent the DMO and others to us to provide land for the construction of the hospital.
Haja Aissatou Abdoulaye Kamara told the people that government is concerned about the welfare of its people, adding that their presence in Guinea sends a negative signal because the country is not at war. Sierra Leone's sovereignty, she went on,